Hey, folks.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Thank you. Good to see you guys. Janie, Bill, Karen. Who else is here? Paul. Yay, Paul. Good to see you, Paul.
Good to be here.
Kevin. I'm scrolling through the top. That's participants 9. That's pretty good. We'll wait just a little while longer before we get going, just to make sure everybody's here. Kevin, I wanted to make sure that we're recording this from the very beginning, right?
Yes.
Yay. Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for doing that. Let's see. We are just up to 9 participants. How's everybody doing? Does anybody have anything before we start? Anybody have anything to talk about? Get into concerns, news, rumors? Karen, I will introduce you in a little bit if you have, well, so where you can talk specifically. But everybody else doing okay?
Okay.
Rob, good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. Hey, do you know if I could share the screen, or can you let me share the screen when I actually do go to talk?
Kevin, that's a Kevin
Right.
question.
Swipe over.
It's saying host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Oh. How did I do that?
Go to security, Kevin, at the bottom, there's a security thing. Go to security and say allow screen sharing.
I mean, if I can't do it, it's not a big deal. Just
No,
Allow.
we must see your screen now, Rob. You've taunted us.
okay.
Is that it?
Yep, I can do it now. So, okay.
Cool. Jerry, good to see you, Jerry. How are you doing?
Hi, Hector. Nice seeing you. Nice seeing all of you.
Wonderful.
How's the weather there? It's cold up here.
Where's up here?
Today was beautiful. Yeah, we had a beautiful day, about 70 degrees, I would say. Sunny, 70, nice.
That's just not right. Okay.
Well, you know, we paid our dues last week with the snowstorm we had.
Yeah. Well, we had the snowstorm, and then we got 8 inches here, and then it just hasn't gone away. Well, actually, today some of it melted. It finally warmed up enough to thaw some of it.
Right.
Yeah. I'd forgotten what that's like.
All right. Well, let's get going. I'm sure people may join late, and they can jump right in if they do. I wanted to welcome everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Well, this is like our second or third Zoom meeting. My name is Hector Cantu. I'm sure you all know, co-creator of the Baldo comic strip and chair of Texas Cartoonists. Welcome to the latest meeting of the Lone Star chapter of the National Cartoonist Society. I'm so glad everybody could make it tonight. So let's jump right in. Special guests, I think tonight we do have to talk. I do have to introduce Karen Evans, who helps with her dad, and with her dad puts out the Luann comic strip. And Karen is the national chapter chair with the National Cartoonist Society. Karen, thanks so much for being here with us tonight. Any news to share with our members? Anything going on that we should know about?
Oh, well, thank you so much for the invite. I love all the get-togethers and being able to highlight some talented artists. The main thing is thank you to anyone and everyone who submitted to this year's Rubin Division Awards. We just closed entry window on that and had a really nice turnout. So now we're preparing for our chapter and specialty juries. So hopefully some of you will be participating in that towards the end of the month. And then the Rubens this year, everyone's question is, will it be in person? And the answer is yes, that's what we're gearing towards. I'm sure there will be some pieces that are hybrid because I know not everyone may be ready or comfortable to travel. It's based in Kansas City. Dates are still being worked on. So we have been hustling that for months. And the challenge is everyone is trying to catch up on missed conventions, conferences, and sporting events. So trying to find a good date window that's still reasonably priced is the name of the game. And I don't know Sorry, I don't know why my video keeps cutting out, but I'm still here. Anyhow,
You're
so
still here.
that's the biggest news is we're excited to start our jurying process, and that's such an important piece of the Rubens, and we love our chapter participation. So thank you in advance, everyone who's planning to participate.
Very cool. I know we had a few entries, chapter members entering this year. And of course, Janie won last year for a children's book illustration, right?
Yes.
Right, Janie?
Yes, thank you.
Yay, we're very proud.
Rob, I hope Rob's not mad at me.
What? Oh, no. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Of course, our main goal here at the local chapter is fostering NCS membership. So we're always encouraging members to apply for NCS membership and helping them any way we can. We've had a few folks express interest in joining the chapter just recently. But for now, we're slowly going to get back to local live events here in our chapter. Hopefully we can have more group meetings this year. We're probably going to start, we haven't done this for at least a year and a half, but we're going to start collecting our annual dues for the chapter, not necessarily the NCS, but for chapter members. Notices will go out soon. And Donnie Pitchford, who does Lum and Abner, the Lum and Abner comic strip, has created a wonderful membership certificate for 2022. And everybody who pays their chapter dues and our NCS members will get one this coming year. It'll be mailed out, show something, suitable for framing. You can put it up in your studio. It'll say you're a Texas Cartoonist member for 2022. So those will be going out soon. Which brings us tonight to our special guest. We're so excited to have Rob Harrell joining us tonight. Rob is a native Hoosier and DePaul University graduate. He's the creator and illustrator of the syndicated comic strip Big Top, which ran from 2002 until 2007. He's the creative mind behind the long-running daily strip Adam at Home, which runs in more than 140 newspapers. And in addition to that, Rob achieved success as an author and had his first novel, Monster on the Hill, published in 2013, about a down on his luck 1800s English monster. It was picked up by Paramount Pictures and released this past year. As an illustrator, Rob has worked for Mad Magazine, Simon & Schuster, American Greetings, Time, and several other publications. His paintings have been shown in solo shows in San Francisco and Indianapolis and Austin, which brings us to why Rob was in Texas for a while. Rob lived in Austin several years back and was among the charter members of Texas Cartoonists when we launched many years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And Rob lived in Austin before moving back to Indiana. So Rob, welcome. We're really excited to have you here and proud that you are a former member.
Yeah, this is great. I'm happy to be back. And it's good to see some of the faces I haven't seen in a while. So thank you for asking me. This is great.
Sure.
I wish I was down there. It's cold here and warm there, and I miss the weather there for sure. I know my wife does. She is about over winter right now. So,
well, you're always welcome to come back to Texas whenever you like, Rob. Welcome arms are always here waiting for you.
Okay. All right, good to know.
Good to know. Hey, since most of our members are like pretty much cartoonists, they're doing this, they're in the business. I try to stay away from like obvious questions. So let's just get into the more questions that I think our members would like to know. But I do have to start with when did you know you wanted to be a cartoonist? How old were you and how did that happen?
Fourth grade. Honestly, I announced to my parents that I wanted to do a comic strip when I grew up in fourth grade. And I started my first magazine in fourth grade, actually. My friend Steve Ferris and I, we got really into drawing, and we both would buy these books and sort of go over go over each other's drawings and try to make each other better and all that. And then we decided to put out a ripoff of Mad Magazine called Freak Out. And so Freak Out was, you know what? I have a little like PowerPoint that I could run through real quick if you want to see it. It's kind of loosely, but it's basically what I do when I go to schools, but I can kind of show you just real quick if you want to run through and kind of give an update for people on.
Sure,
on
go
how
ahead.
All right, I'll do it quick, and it's going to be informal. So if anybody has a question, jump in, because we're all peers here, so I don't want you to feel like I'm lecturing to you, which is weird. Also, by the way, I have a bad setup because I work on a Cintiq. I have a camera over here, and I'm looking at you guys over here. So I didn't want you to think I was like watching TV over here. Okay. Let's see. If that's going to share. You seeing that now?
Yeah, we see it.
Okay, here we go. So that's Freak Out. I told you that in fourth grade, we did Freak Out magazine. And so I had this cat that I drew called Henry the Cat. And Bob the Blob was my character with the cigar there. And then Steve drew the mouse.
I think it's amazing that you kept these things, because I think we all drew stuff when we were in fourth grade. We just don't have them anymore.
My mom was really good at keeping this stuff. Now, I will tell you, I only found a couple of pages left from Freak Out. And also, we sold subscriptions for a quarter, and then we ended up having to give them back because we figured out that it cost money to print these things. I was like, well, just go do it at my dad's office. And then he was like, no, that takes money. So he wanted us to pay him back. So we just gave the quarters back. So we only did one issue, actually. And this was the kind of thing that we did in there. It's cut off, but it was him saying, oh, shoot. And he's diving into a shark's mouth. So it was a high end. Okay. So I'll run through this quick. All through middle school, high school, college, I did comic strips for the papers and stuff for the yearbook. This was one of the strips that I tried to get syndicated coming out of college, and it was called Fester's Travels, and I'm so glad it didn't get picked up. It was about a 6-foot frog and an alligator traveling across the country on a mechanical horse. So it was just stupid. I think I thought I was really clever or something, and I thought so it was bad. I can say that unequivocally. So I got out of college, and I needed to make a living, so I started working as a freelance illustrator here in Indianapolis. Just went around to the ad agencies, whoever would hire me. I did a lot of stuff for legal magazines for whatever reason. The American Bar liked my illustration style. But eventually I said I always wanted to do a comic strip. Eventually I came up with this idea for Big Top and got syndicated by Universal and was just over the moon. It was what I'd always wanted to do. And I had this kid who was growing up in a circus, surrounded by these smart ass animals, and this poodle in particular sort of took over the strip. Turned out it was really fun to write for a jerk. I enjoyed that. There he is. He was challenged to say something nice to someone, and that was as close as he could get. I love your enormous pants.
Rob, let me ask you before you move on. I know a lot of us, if we're not syndicated already, we dream for the time of being syndicated. What do you think it was about your comic that really convinced the syndicates to do it? What do you think was the key to getting that syndicate offer?
I think more than anything, more than the drawing or the way I put together the presentation or my packet or anything like that, I think it was just the sense of humor. I think, and having talked to the sales guys and the syndicate people and all that stuff, it seems like it always comes back to the sense of humor and the jokes. And if the jokes aren't solid, you can have the best artwork in the world and it's not gonna fly. Whereas I think if you've got the jokes, you can. There are some strips that do it with stick figures and make it work. So I think that's what made it work. And I didn't know if I could do that. I just had always wanted to, and then I just kind of forced it and forced the writing, I think. So and then it turned out I think a lot of these characters were parts of my brain. So I think I felt really attached to a lot of these characters. Dusty said the stuff I would never say out loud. Wink was my sort of gentle, he always just wanted to stay in bed and eat snacks. And, I had little bits of my personality scattered throughout the strip. And so it made it easier to write it that way rather than trying to like reinvent the world. I didn't come out of the gate saying, okay, I'm going to do a strip about, scientists in space 7,000 years from now or something like that, which I wouldn't have probably. But again, I think actually you could do that just so long as you keep your personality in the strip. So does that answer? Is that good?
Yes. Good. Thanks.
All right. Yeah. So I did Adam at Home, or Big Top. I moved to Austin. That's when some of you may know, I was diagnosed with cancer and went through sort of an awful thing with my eye and lost the sight in my right eye. And that was really hard, but also turned out really expensive. Really, like after the fact, medical bills started pouring in, and a lot of people got irritated with me. I think people who like Big Top were irritated, like, why did you end it? But I wasn't in that many papers, and I just wasn't making enough money. So I quit to like take on day jobs. I was working a video job and all this, and I just didn't have time to do the strip, and I felt like my hand was forced. I just had to do what I had to do. But then after a few years of doing these day jobs, Universal came back to me and asked me if I would like to take over Adam at Home. Brian Bassett was wanting to take more time on Red and Rover, and actually kind of sort of sold them this Adam at Home back, and they were looking to continue it. So they asked if I'd like to do it, and they told me I could do whatever I kind of wanted with it. The thing I will, just do. The thing I will say, it was really hard taking it over. I took a beating online. I was not prepared in any way to take it over. I am not good at mimicking someone else's style, it turns out. So I think at first I was kind of trying to do my style, but a little bit of Brian's in there, and it was just a mess. And if I look back at those drawings, it's frankly kind of embarrassing. And I heard about it. There were people online saying, that I drew it with my feet, things like that. So slowly it has become, I think of it as I have some ownership in it now, whereas it started. So I'm still doing it. That's 12, 13 years now I've been doing it, which is crazy to me, that it's that much longer than I did Big Top. So I'm still doing that. While I was trying to figure out what to do for a career after Big Top, pre-Adam, I started painting. My paintings, I had a gallery in Austin and a gallery out in San Francisco, and I was doing okay with that, but frankly, I just kind of burned out. So there's a couple of my paintings. I think I burned out because what I really like is telling stories. So I said I had a video job during that time, and I would film public commission meetings and government meetings around Austin. And one of the things that I filmed was the Texas Board of Education. And that little black window you see in the back there, that was where I would sit. And I had all these little remote cameras, and I would film them. And it was horrible and boring. And some of their meetings would last 10, 12 hours, and they could come and go as they wanted, but I was back there filming. So I just started drawing on their agendas. And one day I drew this character, and I liked it.
Well, Rob, before you move on to Monsters on the Hill there, I always talk to people, and they're just amazed that a lot of us have more than one job. I worked at Heritage Auctions up until this past June. So I was doing a full-time job plus the comic strip. And I find that is usually the case with a lot of us. Can you explain why that is? I mean, a lot of people think that we're just, doing this full-time 100% and do nothing else, but that's not necessarily the case all the time.
No. And I think there was a time when doing a syndicated comic strip, it was almost like being a rock star or something, and was very lucrative. And unfortunately, just over the years, that has fallen off, and it depends on which papers you have, how many papers you have, but even more than that, it's which papers you have. Do you have small papers or big papers? Because big papers pay more than small papers. And, honestly, it's just, at least with Big Top, it was hard to make ends meet. And I started out okay, continued to do okay. Eventually I had a talk with Lee Salem, and he's like, I think it's kind of found its level. I don't think you're going to suddenly get a big influx of new papers picking you up, and you're not going to lose any. And it was just sort of a hard decision. But yeah, I think it's just a question of putting food on the table to some extent. And I'm so grateful that I got syndicated. We also moved to Austin. Austin's not cheap, things like that. So I needed it. I needed it. Basically, is how I'd put it.
So we get to Monsters on the Hill. Was Monsters on the Hill born in Austin?
Yeah, I was sitting there filming the Texas Board of Education in the Travis building there, and so I drew this. I drew a couple other characters. It was funny, for some reason I would sit back there and on the agendas draw monsters. It was just kind of mindless, and there were no rules, so I would just kind of sketch these monsters out. So I drew this guy, and after a while, there's another one you can see on the back of an agenda. I drew Tentacular, and eventually I came up with this idea. I actually first did like a 7-page story about Monster Island, just to see if I could do it. And then I sent that around. And actually the first publisher I sent it to was Top Shelf Productions, because I know their stuff.
And are you saying it was just a 7-page, just like an outline, or?
No, it was like a 7. No, it was actually 7 pages fully illustrated. I actually did it originally for what was going to be an anthology that was going to raise money for cancer awareness. Somebody had approached me, and I was like, yeah, I'll do a short little piece. And so I did it. It was called Melancholia. It was about this sad dragon. And then that thing fell through, and suddenly I had this 7-page piece that I had finished that I was really proud of. I mean, it was like my favorite thing I'd done at the time. And so I was like, I need to send this out. And actually my wife is an esthetician, and one of her clients that came in, it turned out knew the publisher at Top Shelf. And I was like, oh, can you get this to him? I suppose I could have just stuck it in the mail, but he saw it faster that way. And
so how did that happen? So it went from a short, you said a 7-page short?
7-page short. So I just sent it to him, and I said, this is something that, I could see blowing this up into a bigger story. What do you think? And he wrote back and said, yeah, I think absolutely. How would you blow it up? And so then I started going through the process of sort of expanding the story. In the first story, it was just about this monster on the hill and all that. But then I blew it out into this world where each town has its own monster on the hill that comes in and scares the townspeople, and they like it. It's almost like a roller coaster, and people come to town to get scared by other towns' monsters, and so once I had that sort of twist, that felt like the beginning of, okay, I've got something here. And then I knew that he was this depressed monster, so it was all about he needs some sort of a journey to sort of rediscover his inner monster. So I started working with the Chris Staros at Top Shelf, and we sort of fleshed out this idea. I would send him, pages, and he'd be like, yeah, I like where this is headed and all that. And so it was pretty organic. It just kind of happened. And then at some point he was like, yeah, let's do it. Do the book, and gave me a contract. And then, I thought it would take me 8 months or something like that to do the book. And 2.5 years later, I was done. So it was a lot of work, and I love doing it. But it was a challenge. But it was an exciting challenge. I'll be honest, after Big Top ended, I was kind of in a depression. I was kind of in a bad place. And writing the story was almost like if you read the book, it's sort of a thinly veiled self-help book about, pulling yourself out of a slump kind of thing. And I was kind of doing that for myself. Like the real monster that they end up having to fight is called the Merc. And for me, that was all the murky stuff that's kind of under the, down deep inside you that you got to work out, whether it's in therapy or just having some hard talks with yourself and that sort of thing. So, I'd been through the cancer, I'd ended the strip. I was just kind of in a dark place. And so this was my way to write it out. And it kind of worked. It was almost like art as therapy in a way. So, it's a story that I feel very personally connected to. And as you know, they turned it into a movie and they changed it dramatically, which was sort of a nightmare.
Before we get to that, Rob, where do your ideas come from? It seems like, with Wink and with Monster on the Hill, that where are you pulling your ideas out from? I mean, as creators, what can we learn from that? Where it seems everything seems very organic for you, that it's just coming from a personal point of view.
Yeah, I think they all. I tend to like to write about underdogs, but I think they all come from a personal place. Like I said, Monster on the Hill was kind of about pulling yourself out of this dark place. Wink is very much based on the cancer experience that I went through, and Life of Zarf. The kid is a troll in a middle school, and no one likes trolls in this fairy tale world. And so, I in my head, those books are in my middle school that I went to. I wasn't a troll, or but I had my own struggles, and so I just think. They always say write what you know, but I don't think that means I have to write about a cartoonist who lives in Indiana, but I think that means like write what you feel or have felt. And so I try to write stories that reflect that. Now I will say the new books that I'm doing, this Bat Pig series, they're a little goofier and they're a little bit, and I frankly, they're a lot of fun because they're just sort of letting my imagination roll. And with that, it's very much seat of the pants writing. That's how I would put it. And that I'm just trying to be funny and trying to be, but I try to ground it with some real feelings and lessons and things like that in it too.
For Monster on the Hill, I mean, most of us would love to get that phone call that, that it's going to be turned into a movie. How did that work out? How was that experience? And how did you end up feeling about it?
So the book came out in 2013, and I'll tell you, it launched at Comic-Con in San Diego. I'd never been to a Comic-Con, and it launched. If you know the graphic novel March by John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, he was sitting next to me at the table. We were launching our books, so he had insane numbers of people waiting to talk to him. It was very just an honor to get to hang out with him. But then that weekend I was approached actually by Real Effects out of Dallas, and these producers actually were at the convention, and they came up and they said, we've been looking at this, and that's when they really sort of pitched me that they wanted to do this.
So then now you've moved on, like you said, to When Pigs Fly, which is your more fun release, more creative, just out there, kind of a fun read, and Bat Pig. Tell us a little about, tell our members about what your advice is for those of us who want to be published, by the big New York publishing houses. What do you think are the couple of key points or key goals you need to focus on if you want to be published, out of the big publishing houses?
That's tough. I think it helps to have a unique voice. I think that's what they're really looking for, is someone who has a unique voice. And that sounds like I'm tooting my own horn. I'm not. I just felt kind of lucky that when it all started when I sent my agent, Life of Zarf. I sent him about the first 80 pages of that, illustrated and written out, and he reacted, and that's. I tried to write in a way that would make my friends laugh. I tried to write in a way that would make myself laugh. What I wasn't trying to do was write in a way that would make kids laugh, and I stick by that. I don't know how to write for kids, and I think that's part of why I can write for kids, if that makes sense. It's a little bit like hanging out with kids. Like I feel like kids catch on to disingenuousness, or if you're talking to them like a baby talk or anything like that, they will. So I tend to just talk to kids like they're small adults, and that tends to win them over. So I think as far as like writing kids books and things like that, but I think the overarching thing is have a unique take and unique voice, and then have the artwork look good.
What's your favorite piece of equipment, or what's your must-have artistic tool?
Cintiq is my favorite by far, and I made that switch to digital kind of as I was starting to lose my sight in that right eye, and depth perception got harder. I used to like to work with brush pens, and now it's just almost impossible for me to work with brush pens. So with the Cintiq, it's so much easier. I have my finger on the undo button, and if I hit the screen when I don't mean to, I can just undo it, and
Right.
it has made a huge difference.
Awesome. Let's take just one or two questions from any members that might have anything. Janie, I see your hand up. If you, there you go.
I have a question. I want to know, I know you're established with publishing houses already. I kind of want to know what your pitch package on When Pigs Fly or the Bat Pig book. I want to know what your pitch looked like. Like, how much did you give them on that?
Well, that one's a bad example because Bat Pig sort of came out of the previous book, and so we were talking about it, and it sort of came about
Okay.
that way. But I'll tell you more about like Life of Zarf, my first book. I reached out first to an agent, a writing agent, which I can't recommend enough. I in my illustration life, I resisted having a rep. In writing, it's made all the difference. So I reached out to this guy. He gave me some feedback on some of the ideas that I was kicking around. And so I said, well, let me just, one of them kind of lit his interest. And I said, okay, let me go work on that. So I came back and I just sent him, it was just a Word document that I had dropped illustrations into. And it was about 80 pages. And it was just written out. I, bumped in the margins a little bit so it kind of fit a book. I looked at books like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, things like that, and then dropped in the illustrations and sent that off to him. And he was like, I love this, made some suggestions. What's great is they kind of work as an editor before you ever show it to publishers. And so we got it up to about 120 pages. And we reworked some things and all that he gave me suggestions. And then we sent that off. He sent it off to the publisher. So the beauty of that is I didn't even have to worry about, how to package it and all that kind of stuff. You go through an agent like that and they already know all these editors and all the publishing houses, and they look at the project and they go, this should go to, Susan over here and Steve over here. And then they send them off, and they already have a relationship with those people. And it's, man, I mean, my writing agent, he gets his percentage and he way over earns it. I think he's amazing. So I would strongly recommend contacting a writing agent.
Very cool.